Hello, this is Ruslan Malinovsky.
Hello, this is Roman Yaremchuk.
Hello, I'm Sergey Rebrov.
And you're listening to Ukraine Plus Football.
The window has slammed shut in Western Europe, but alas, it remains open in Ukraine for a good while longer. The likes of Turkey and MLS are also still conducting their winter business. What a window it could have been, but it turned out to be one that largely wasn't. All the moves that did and or didn't happen will be discussed, as will a whole lot more in the latest episode of Ukraine Plus Football.
Скажите мне, пожалуйста, чем я плохой бизнесмен?
Getting tonight's episode off and running, we should really have a good look at what's gone on at Dynamo Kyiv over the last month with regards to their transfer strategy. And the big news, of course, has been Vladimir Brazhko and his potential move to the EPL. Now, Andrew, you were following the story quite closely. How close were we to seeing him put on the famous orange of the Wanderers?
Well, I think he was quite close in the regards to that a concrete offer was put in. Wolves wanted him as their defensive mid. £20 million bid, according to Talovyerov, was put in. That would have been probably paid over the course of 4 years. So 5 million instalments or something like that. Jorge Mendes was involved. Obviously, the Portuguese super agent, Ronaldo's agent, half of Wolves' squad's agent. He was involved in the talks there, trying to get something resolved. Brazhko went as far as sort of posting photos with his mum in the final days of the transfer window saying, great support from this person as always, or something along those lines. Then at like 2 a.m. Warsaw time, where he was spending a little mini break after the Dynamo European matches, at 2 a.m. he posted a photo of a Warsaw skyline, just sort of eerily, just randomly. And he had deleted all of his photos of Dynamo Kyiv and other photos as well, leaving just 2. One, I think, was of him in Zaporizhzhia, and another one was of him in the new Ukraine kit. So that was already a bit ominous. And then, by the time people woke up in the morning, he'd returned a couple Dynamo Kyiv photos and another sort of Ukraine photo, but the large majority of them still missing. And he had like in the tens, maybe hundreds of posts. And, the fact that that was all removed, there's a sense that maybe he was annoyed the fact that this move didn't happen. And on the whole, certain consensus is saying that Dynamo wanted more money for him, over 20 million. That is, I don't know, probably closer to 30 million if we're going to be realistic on what we know Surkis to be like. And when you compare it to the fact that Torino wanted to buy him in the summer of 2023, when he hadn't made a senior Dynamo Kyiv appearance for about 3 or 4 million, and Dynamo wanted 10 million for him then. So you fast forward a year and a half, and now he's worth almost double your asking, or triple your asking price almost, if we're going to go that far. However, Ihor Surkis, Dynamo president, owner, came out with this statement to Talovyerov to explain his reasoning for rejecting the Wolves offer. Brazhko remains at Dynamo because we are primarily guided by the club's priorities, and they are obvious. We need to win the championship and get the opportunity to compete for the right to participate in the 25-26 Champions League. Volodymyr is a key player in the team who will help us achieve this goal. It is much more important than situationally earning some money by selling him. At the same time, we want to see Brazhko in a major championship and a high-status European club. He knows our position, he reacts calmly to everything, and will deserve such an offer in the future. Dynamo respects Wolverhampton, but we all and the player understand that next season the club may end up in the championship. If desired, we will still have time an opportunity to return to this conversation when both clubs have fulfilled their tournament goals. So I think, first of all, three things from the off. Is Dynamo able to win the UPL without Brazhko? I think that's a question to open to the panel. The second one is that, are they going to get more than 20 million for him in 6 months' time? Because what's he going to build in the next 6 months realistically just by playing in the UPL? Okay, yes, there's a couple Ukraine games, but that's about it. He can't really increase his value at any stage, justifiably anyway. And then also the bit about Wolverhampton being sort of in a relegation battle or something like that. It's not really the level of the player. I think that's very unfair and harsh, seeing as the likes of Zabarny went to Bournemouth when they were sort of relegation battling 2 years ago. He was allowed to move. I just feel that last sentence or that last paragraph, and also including the fact that the player understands it, unnecessary and possibly not even true when we're looking at how Volodymyr Brazhko reacted to the fact, or we think reacted on social media to the fact that he didn't get the move. You know what I mean? Is any of it justifiable? What's your thoughts, Mike?
Honestly, that statement about the player and the club, I just thought it was so arrogant. Do you know what I mean? Brazhko wanted to move there. It was quite obvious, right, for a start. And then turn around and say, we've rejected it because we're thinking about the player and we care about him and where he goes. And it's not a good fit. It's like Wolves would be an incredible fit for him. And it would be an incredible step for his career. And to stop that is just out of this world. It really upset me, to be fair. What you said about Dynamo winning the league without him, I think it would have been a breeze, to be fair. And I would have thought that before Shakhtar sold the players, and I will come on to that, but I think they've had a terrible transfer window and now we're a lot weaker. I don't think it makes any difference to the title race. Just think it's a very damaging piece of business for Ukrainian football as a whole.
Yeah, and that's another thing, because you've got Jorge Mendes, who's involved in these talks, and he comes away from it with the fact that obviously it's rejected, and then these kind of statements come out, and he's probably thinking, do I really want to do business with these clubs in future when they're so, let's say, arrogant is a way of putting it politely, maybe, or sort of overextending the reality of where they are? Because for me, it seems like, in particular, Dynamo, Shakhtar maybe slightly less, that because they play in the Champions League and all that kind of thing, that these clubs think that they're in 2014 still, or pre-2014, when they were able to do that in the past. And similarly, it was also ridiculous the way they conducted business back then, because they really should be looking at the likes of, Dinamo Zagreb's and all that kind of thing, which for me, looking at it right now, for some of the players that Shakhtar are trying to move, it's kind of going that way, with Sakan and Zubkov and all that kind of thing, for those under 10 million fees, just above 5 million, that kind of thing. All right. But from a Dynamo perspective, it just seems like it's completely overbloated. Like, we've got other examples this window. Nazar Voloshyn had interest from Lens and Sunderland. They both wanted him on loan. The Black Cats wanted a mandatory obligation to buy if they are promoted to the Prem. So if they do well in this next 6 months, they're going to go up. And that would have been the Championship. Not particularly a problem, but Dynamo, I think, wanted a substantial amount of money to sell him, kind of thing, rather than actually do any loans. Lens just wanted a loan with a potential to buy. And literally in the past week, he signed a new contract with Dynamo, which keeps him until the summer of 2028. So that's also going to tie his hands down. He's evidently not going to be going anywhere anytime soon as a result of that, because they're going to ask for big money. And when you compare it to Brazhko, who's actually been doing quite well for Dynamo, yes, not particularly amazing in Europe as the whole squad have been, but Voloshyn's actual main value, where it comes from, or the fact that people like him, is from when he was playing in the youth days for Dynamo Kiev, and also when he plays for the under-21s, where he seems to impress, but not actually for Dynamo itself. So for that to somehow improve, okay, we've got the Euros, the under-21 Euros this summer. Maybe something might come from that. But even still, you're looking at a problem. And then you've also got the fact that Dyachuk, Maxim Dyachuk, who's like, in my opinion, from what I can see, Shovkovsky's like third or fourth choice centre-back. And I understand that Dinamo need depth in all these positions. Yes, Brazhko, they don't have a backup to Mihailenko. If they were to sell him, they'd have to have found another defensive mid from somewhere. But surely they can find someone. Why is it so difficult to find someone for 2 or 3 million somewhere that's going to come that will be half decent to help you over the line? Dyachuk, though, centre-back, fourth choice or third choice. Bilovar starts ahead of him most games, that kind of thing, even though he's a worse level player. Real Zaragoza wanted him in La Liga 2. Wanted him on loan, and that was apparently happening, almost certain going to happen. And then because Dinamo couldn't sign Ime Ocon, the South African guy that they had on trial over the past month plus, because Dinamo thought that now that the window's closed, Ocon's not going to have many options and he's going to sort of sign for them or something like that. That apparently hasn't happened yet. It's like on-off every single day if Ocon's going to move there or not. Probably isn't going to move there now because Dyachuk ended up staying because they couldn't guarantee that fourth choice centre-back. And now Dyachuk doesn't get the opportunity to go to play in La Liga 2. So problems. And Shaparenko, another one. He's still at Dinamo, 26, 27 in October of this year. Had a poor game against Galatasaray in the first half. Got a yellow, which meant that he was suspended for the RFS game, so he couldn't show himself even more to build any money on that. Subbed at half-time against Galatasaray, and then in the second half, Dinamo, they ended up coming back without him. And then you see that he's being linked with the likes of Trabzonspor or something similar, and you question, would Dinamo even sell him there? Because then they're not going to sell him for any cut price or anything like that, or under 10 million. And Trabzonspor have never paid more in their history for a player than Zubkov this window. So I doubt they're going to break their record twice in one go. And also the fact that they bought Sakan in the same window as well. It's just like, all right, good luck with that. So Dinamo is just, I don't really get what the outlook is. Fair play if in the summer somehow all these players go for big bucks, but for some reason I doubt it. Don't you, Adam?
Fully agree. But the one thing for me is I'm amazed that people are still surprised by this. It seems to have been endless. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I go all the way back to when Yarmolenko was trying to leave the club about a decade ago, there seemed to be endless scandals then before he got his move to Dortmund. And ever since, the circuses, there we go. It's nice play on words. There seems to be a detachment from reality. And talking to people on sort of the scouting circuit, everybody's coming to the same conclusion, like you mentioned, Andrew, with Mendes. Why would he go back? And people look and go, all right, this is a 10 million euro player, 15 million euro player. Oh, they want 25. Well, you know what? Our data department's given us 5 or 6 players who are just like Brazhko, but we're very interested in Brazhko. But okay, you now want 10 million more than what we're looking to spend on this position. We're going elsewhere. And there are so many players.
That's what they did. Wolves have got another cut price guy that I think they bought from somewhere in France, and that's their replacement. We'll see if he's any good, but they're not going to come back in for Brazhko in the summer to spend 20 plus million again. You know what I mean? It's just, and then you think about it, it's like, what other clubs are actually going to spend that kind of big money, kind of not out of desperation or anything like that in the Premier League? We'll have to wait and see, but it just seems unlikely, in my opinion. And like I said, if the negotiations go like this, I just don't see any recommendations sort of coming from that.
I mean, forward. It needs for me for a club to come in and spend big money, real big money on a player, any player in Dynamo or Shakhtar's teams now. It needs real standout performances in the Champions League or at international level. Apart from that, nothing else is going to matter. That it's those tournaments that will drive up the asking price. Elsewhere, they could play what they want, to be perfectly honest. And as we know, as we've mentioned, Shakhtar, Dynamo are now coming to that reality of group stage of the Champions League. Probably not likely in the near future, so the players aren't going to have that stage to show themselves on year in, year out. Hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I wasn't surprised. The circus's greed got in the way, and I don't see it changing, which is the sad thing. I would love it to change, but I just don't see it changing in the future. Bushan, we haven't mentioned Bushan, have we? Hey, we spoke about Mike. You mentioned you thought Dynamo could win the league without Brazhko. But can Dynamo win the league without Bushan, who's gone off to Saudi for 3 million?
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming really. I thought they would. I thought Dynamo would want to keep hold of him until the summer, but money was right. Players gone. I think he trusts the backup. I think he trusts Nesheret, if that's pronounced right. Nesheret. I think he just trusts him enough to perform well for 6 months, which I do too. I don't think that is too much of an issue. It's time for him to step up, and I don't think that'll make too much of a big issue in the title race, really that much. But a good move for Bushan. You know, he's sat on the bench for a little bit of his Dynamo career, performed pretty well. He's number 2 at Ukraine, so why not go get your money?
Exactly. Everyone deserves a decent payday, especially after working under Circus for so long. Now, as Andrew mentioned, Turkey were rather busy shopping in Shakhtar's front office this month. I'm gonna come back to him here because when I saw the team that Stepanenko was signed for, I thought I'm not going to try and pronounce that one because there's going to be some Turkish fans listening to this, and I don't want you to butcher me yet on my pronunciations. So, Andrew, where did Stepanenko go?
To the Yorkshire Turkish team, Adam. Eyüpspor.
Eyüpspor.
All right, yeah. But
sorry, I should have gone to Markle, shouldn't I?
Yeah, exactly. He's more appropriate for this one. But as you mentioned, Stepanenko has been given his right of leave from Shakhtar, played in the final moments against Dortmund, sort of an emotional, as it can be, final few minutes, and said goodbye. Off to Eyüpspor, a 1.5-year contract. It's probably going to be more minutes for him there than at Shakhtar, where he has spent the last 6 months on the bench primarily. He is getting on it, age-wise, injury-wise. But Eyüpspor are actually 4th in the league at the moment. So let's see if they can continue that. But they are recently promoted, and we know how second halves of seasons go for certain teams like that. Elsewhere, Trabzon is the new Ukrainian exclave for Ukrainian Shakhtar players across the Black Sea. Sakan moved about 6.5 million just after the last pod. I think we mentioned that it was going to happen/happening. That happened. Now he's playing left wing there for some reason, but let's see how that progresses going forward. And then also Zubkov finally got his move after being touted to San Diego, then to Trabzonspor. Then it looked like Trabzonspor wasn't happening and all this kind of stuff, and he ends up moving. And as per Tato Teker and other sources, 7.5 million fee plus bonuses, which makes him the record transfer for the club. And they got their man. I think they wanted him, or as far as I'm aware, the fans wanted him more than Sakan, mainly because Zubkov is a winger, and the 2 wingers they have that are regular starters like 34, 35 years old on either side. So Zubkov coming in at the ripe age of 28 should at least boost things. And I feel that, yeah, he's not the most consistent or hasn't been for like Ukraine in particular, but on his day in sort of a Turkish league, I think he could do a job, in my opinion. And then, of course, you've got Batahov, who's actually starring there, scoring a few goals of late, being a centre-back. And I think that as a result of that, we probably might be seeing him in the national team picture in March if he continues playing there, because I think he's a particularly good option. Been playing well for the under-21s, so why not?
Now, did I read it right? No, I swear I didn't read this. But Sikan, does that have a different meaning in Turkish to what it does in Ukraine, Andrew?
Absolutely. So on the dick, to my dick, something like that. So he's got a good amount of memes and banter amongst Trabzonspor fans. Already in the early days, they already got a chant saying sick, 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 and apparently that means dick. So yeah, he's loving life. He's one of the stars there. Obviously, Turkish fans are probably some of the most, let's say, sincere, hardcore football fans on the planet. Some of them are absolutely mental. That's just not even on social media. That's in reality. And, you know, it makes great atmosphere. So you can get that cult of personality if you do well for them. And Godspeed to both of them, or to all three of them, that they can make a name for themselves at Trabzonspor, despite the fact that they are kind of in this mid-table lull at the moment. But we'll see what happens. But I feel the main key here is the fact that Shakhtar have let all three of those go. Stepanenko, Zubkov, Sikan, Kelsey earlier as well, which leaves just one centre forward in the team, out and out, Traore. Eganalda can play there as like this weird false nine. And it's like, what's the plan?
I was curious. I wanted to come to Ray on this one, I'll be honest with you, because whenever it comes to Ukrainian football history, Ray's got it down to a T. And I wanted to know, can you think of a time when a Shakhtar team has looked as weak on paper as it does coming out of this window, minus Sikan, Stepanenko, Zubkov? Kelsey, of course, has gone across to your side of the ocean, to Portland there for 6 million. Cupboards are looking pretty bare for Shakhtar, isn't it?
To be fair, I'm not a historian, Adam. I watch football today as well. So I'm not gonna dive into it because it's a winter transfer window and it has never been a thing for Ukrainian clubs. So it's a bit of a bubble for me. It's always been. I wouldn't say Shakhtar has lost all chances to win the championship, you know, provided that they start from round 2, is it? So as long as they do, it's more of a coefficient decline, not only the club's decline, because it doesn't matter who wins the league. We are still not getting Champions League for the most part. It has really left the scene for Ukraine, you know, and the question is real for owners: are they living in the past or not? When they keep the players for a known reason, you know, when they don't accept offers, and when they, you know, prioritize the league as well. And I wanted to ask you guys, what was the previous exclave for Ukrainian players, since now it's Turkey? Was it a country in the east? Was it a country in the south? Was it Belgium?
It
What
was definitely
that?
Belgium. It was definitely Belgium. Ghent, when Yaremchuk, Plaston, Bezels were there, and all the other guys that were playing in and around the different clubs. I don't think you can really, other than, you know, the Premier League right now, you could say that you've got players going there, you know, a healthy amount.
And sadly, the Hungarian league.
Yeah, that too. Had a few in Ferencváros, of course, and those other.
Subcovers himself.
Yeah, precisely.
So what history taught us is that it taught us nothing because Plastun has recently moved back to Belgium from Kazakhstan. So maybe Zubkov and Sikan are on the way to top leagues. We never know.
So elsewhere with Shakhtar, the players coming in. Elias from Fluminense, 18 years old, very young to be coming across, but comes with a good reputation. The price is expected to be around 17 million euros or a bit higher.
So he's a centre forward. So he would be the Sikan replacement. He's apparently quite similar to Traore of the past when he was more mobile and didn't have a cruciate ligament problem and all that kind of thing. But they also wanted Luis Guilherme, who West Ham bought in the summer for 25 million. Shakhtar apparently put in a bid around 15 million. That seems to be completely off the table. Shakhtar have left those negotiations and that kind of thing. And they also wanted to buy a Uruguay left centre-back, Uruguay national team left centre-back, Juan Rodriguez from Peñarol, who apparently it was around 6 to 7 million euros for him, 19 years old. And I guess he would have been the protege, the backup to Matvienko. However, due to like the player being concerned about moving to a war zone, other things, I guess probably the fee, I don't know. Shakhtar have actually got their replacement. They've announced him already, a Bolivian 19-year-old from Bolivar, slightly tall, seems to have quite like long, spindly legs. 19-year-old Diego Arroyo, Bolivian, been playing in the Sudamericano under-20 championships or something like that. And apparently he's got quite high praise. Not ready to be thrown straight into the action, but it seems like there is more understanding of the player that he is compared to the likes of a Khram or a Lemkin or those other kind of random signings that Shakhtar have made that no one's really understood about. And the reason for this in particular is the fact that there was also rumours this window that Matvienko had interest from Marseille, from Roberto De Zerbi, tried to get him again, up to 12 million offered. Shakhtar rejected it. And when you think about it, because of the other exits we've just been talking about, Stepanenko gone, 35, Zubkov, 28, the most senior player in this Shakhtar team right now, on his own, I think, is Matvienko. Captain, and he's only 28. Everyone else is like 26 and under, I'm pretty sure. Maybe you got a 27-year-old in there somewhere, but not somebody out there, you know, that's super a starter or something like that. That's, I think, the main thing, like what Mike was saying, that there is a concern potentially for the team and how they're going to be able to play without so many of these key talents.
It's so cool to sign a Bolivian youngster who is not ready to go straight on out in the games, right? How many academy players from Shakhtar are just like that? No, we just better sign Bolivian. And historically, I wish I could tell you who was the last Bolivian who played in Ukrainian league. I don't remember. As same as I don't remember the last Uruguayan who played in Ukraine. This is just exotic, isn't it?
It's going to be very interesting to see how they get going, isn't it? It really is. But yeah, as I look through the Shakhtar squad, it's got a very young feel to it now. It really does. Marian Shved, 27. There we go. Managed to find one. So yeah, with all of this, we have to keep in mind not making the Champions League phase. That's going to be a 40 million euro hit in Dynamo or Shakhtar from next season. From 26-27, the winner of the UPLs will enter into the first qualifying round of the UCL, which means there will be 4 knockout matches to navigate in order to make the group stage of that year. Mission impossible? We'll see. With that in mind, I think we've probably answered that here at Ukraine Plus Football. We don't consider the Brazhko decision wise. Michael, Ray mentioned briefly there about owners living in the past. What are your feelings on it?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good look for Ukrainian football really at all. You're asking for too much money, and the thing is, you're going to damage like the reputation further with these owners because they're not going to want to come back for players, are they?
It's an exceptionalism in how it's like Ukrainian exceptionalism, but unjustified exceptionalism in the sense that these players aren't really worth what the clubs deem them to be worth. And hence we got this crazy stuff. Like Adam was mentioning earlier about Yarmolenko when Stoke came in for him. And they were offering big bucks back then. I can't remember how much it was, but it was relatively big. I remember that Milevsky was rejected. He wasn't allowed to move somewhere to a similar ilk club because that club was deemed too low for our players to move to. And it's like, if that's what you're basing on, and then you try and drag the player into it, saying that, no, the player didn't want to go either. And it's like, bloody hell, you're ruining his reputation too. And like well, guess, just don't say anything, please. Oh, it's just a mess. And sadly, I don't think the owners are going to realise this until maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, when we really aren't going to have clubs in the Champions League league phase, 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row. Then they're like, actually, fuck, we are down shit creek. Dynamo are absolute joke in Europa League even. Their level, realistically, from a squad level, where they would be able to compete is Conference League. Shakhtar, I think, would probably put on a show in the Europa League, as we've mentioned many a times. So maybe they can still sell players through performances there. There was talk that apparently Napoli or Fiorentina came in for Sudakov, 20 million or something like that, near towards deadline day. Shakhtar wanted 30. Maybe they want a bit more than that, who knows? But I feel that that's probably going to actually get done in the summer. I feel that Shakhtar realistically understand that there's no way they're going to be boosting that anymore. And if anything, the stocks are just dropping and dropping the longer they leave it. And if anything, it's just that sometimes in the summer you can get better business because more clubs are searching, more clubs are open to purchasing, all that kind of thing. So fingers crossed, at least he ends up moving. And then there's also just random rumours like Bondarenko being linked to Trabzonspor. Well, everyone on the planet is being linked to Trabzonspor now. So I would take all of those links until someone in Ukraine says them, not just hearing it from Turkish media, until someone in Ukraine says that they're real, to take all of that with a pinch of salt.
Now we've got do we call them in Scotland, where you've got Celtic and Rangers dominating every discussion.
Please, Adam, this is not for Ukrainian football. Come on. Top two and the others? No way. In this day of age.
Well, I was going to bring up the two cheek reference.
Well, if anything, I think what we're going to be seeing, especially once the Champions League group stages disappear, or league stage, a more level playing field in the UPL. In the coming seasons, Polissya is going to be getting involved more deeply for the title. Doubt Alexandria. Maybe we're going to be seeing LNZ. Maybe we're going to be seeing Karpaty trying to do something with all this stuff. Who knows? Maybe I'm completely delusional, but
I like your optimism.
Well,
I like your optimism.
We can keep our fingers crossed.
Hearts and Hibs.
Well, anyway, let's get down into the real business of what's been going on at all those other clubs in the UPL. There's been a lot of transfer business to break down with. Michael, do you want to get us kicked off with Alexandria?
Yeah, back to the real football. So Alexandria, I'm really pleased with their transfer window. They've been really busy. They've signed Shepilev and Bol, solid players. And I don't know if we mentioned it last time, but they signed that Ndika. Obviously, the big one, which I want to hear your thoughts on, is the Kalyuzhnyi is off to Metalist 1925. I wasn't a fan of this. I wanted to see him go somewhere, but I wanted to see him go to Plymouth. And I know we're going to talk about Plymouth potentially being in League One, but I think that's still better than signing for Metalist 1925 personally. But I know he's going for the contract, he's going for the money, he's going for it's a short career. I get it. Kryvbas, they've signed Mendoza, a Venezuelan. these random South Americans. They're so hit and miss, but perform how they will. Bizimana, who had a good season last year at Kryvbas, he's gone to Libya to Al Ali. And this is where it's exciting now, because there's been no updates on the Karpaty-Ruk merger, but Karpaty have signed 4 big signings that I think that are going to take Karpaty to the next level in this second half of the season, with Kvatnitsia, Sich, Krasnopir, and Fedor. I think they've all been big signings who have all just made the move across to Lviv. So yeah, there's been an exciting time, and I'm just eager to get back to watching the UPL all weekend with those signings. Don't tell my wife and child.
We'll be very intrigued to see what posts are coming up on Instagram those weekends, Mike. Most definitely. Karpaty are looking good, aren't they? Krasnopir have been scoring lots of goals in the friendlies already. It's going to be a very, very interesting spring season for them there, to see if they can really push on with the boost as well. Patricio Tanda, DM, in on loan. Know nothing about him, but they do. We'll see how he settles in. Ruk, barring those 4 exits, and Plymouth left as well. They're pretty stable squad-wise. Brought in some players from Karpaty, return them, Manai, Tlumak, Remenya, Korin, and Ryabov, all coming in. Edson and Smolyakov back as well. Ray, you want to steal Andrew's thunder with Polissya?
Sure. My guilty pleasure is being discussing Polissya, yeah. Well, just a little remark on Patricio Tanda, Adam. I think it's worth mentioning he's Argentinian. That means another South American country, much more represented in Ukrainian League previously, and he would go, I think, in this section with Batista, who went to Uruguay, right? Because they speak a very similar Spanish. Not that I am very fluent in it, but it was lovely to hear. Polissya sacked the vice president, a person in Ukrainian club hierarchy who runs everything. And it's not a secret. A person who is called a director of a club, club administrator, club consultant, club sub-investor, co-owner, whatever you want to put it. This person runs the scene. However, we keep forgetting that in Ukrainian top flight, the clubs exist for their presidents. That's why the only person who can decide anything and any time is the president, which is Butkevich, and he sacked Tesla single-handedly. There was no CEO meeting. There was no 51% German style decision. There was no fan protest. Fans in Polissya in Zhytomyr, I'm sorry, they're busy. They have things to do. It's February. They're working. They just put their Christmas tree away from their homes. They're expecting UPL to start. So yeah, let's get rid of Tesla. Apparently, he is to blame for Makwana incident that we discussed previously. He is in charge of all recruitment and transfers. Well, you can fill in the rest of the blanks, right? The players are excited to see him leave, ex-players of Polissya, and I don't really share that excitement because they are in the same boat as him. Polissya became a very sweet cutie pie for players all around Ukraine and outside Ukraine. If you want to come back to Ukraine, go to Polissya, they got money. I have nothing against players coming back to Ukraine, but when you come for that, you are as guilty as the other guy, who is Tesla in that case. So it's on you, fellas. You should do better. If Kravets, he came back to Metalist 1925, another story, however, not from top flight just yet. You just go for money. Well, I want to hear some other opinion than ours, guys, or journalists. Maybe someone else could speak out, but so far it's just us and the presidents. That's who actually make and discuss and provide the content for mid-season Ukrainian football.
Ray is pretty right in his sense that Butkevich runs the show there, pays everyone's wages and all that kind of thing. And we'll have to wait and see what impact that's going to have. Because like Ray mentioned, Tesla was responsible for a lot of things, allegedly, at Polissya. And as Ray mentioned, a lot of ex-Polissya players shared their happiness that Tesla left because they claim that Tesla was the one that made them end up leaving Polissya. But the funny thing is that most of those players are relatively in the older age bracket that Polissya initially brought in, just to have that stable first season in the UPL and then focus on their long-term ambitions and targets. So Polissya, from a transfer perspective, also doing all right. Sold Artem Smolyakov, under 21 left back, to LAFC for $2 million, euros. I don't know. He's not officially been announced yet because I think they're still working on visas and all that kind of thing. But a big move. He's going to be playing with Olivier Giroud this season. Great stuff for him. Alexander Nazarenko was involved in some transfer sagas as well himself. Trabzonspor apparently were actually in for him, not some sort of fake stuff. They wanted to try and buy him, but they were offering too little. Polissya wanted a lot more than they were offering. And then it ended up being a thing between him and Zubkov. And they ended up going for Zubkov because he's more experienced, reliable. I don't know, even though Zubkov was the more expensive person. There was also interest from Al Ahly in Egypt for Nazarenko. So we had Bizimana from Kryvbas moved to the Libya side. I don't know why he moved there, but I think he wanted to be with his family, didn't want to live in Kryvyi Rih, which evidently is quite a hot spot for missile attacks and all that kind of thing. Fair enough. But to pick anywhere else in the world and you go to Libya, I think that's on him. But yeah, Al Ahly in Egypt, I was even speaking to an Egyptian journalist as well. He said that was true. So just the financing and all that kind of thing didn't come in. And I think for the better for the player not to go there, because what kind of move is that? Realistically, he should be going somewhere, like a low table Spanish side or even Belgium or somewhere like that to progress his career, because he's still super young. I think he's only like 23 or 24. Just go somewhere where you can actually progress it if you want to. And apparently, I think Hutzulak had a few offers as well, but he's probably going to be looking more at a move in the summer from that perspective. Elsewhere, LNZ, since the last pod, they've only brought in Drambayev. They already had the other couple ex-Polissya guys come in before that. However, I think what's key for them and key for Dyachuk and his hopes for the second half of the season is that they kept Yashari, who was obviously their best player for the past year. He's just come back from a sort of small injury as well, and he's started playing in the friendlies. And Momo, who apparently had doubts about going back to Ukraine, he's been persuaded and returned to their training camp, and he's been scoring in friendlies as well. Albeit Molo, who's the other centre forward that they've got, who I think is from Cameroon, his father's just died, so maybe that might have some sort of psychological impact on him. You don't know. And then Brazhko, of course. They kept Krupski on loan, despite selling him to Metalist 925. I think that's probably the best move here in terms of for the next 6 months. If Metalist 925 are to get promoted, imagine they don't. That's going to be mental, especially the fact they've bought Krupski, they've bought Kalyuzhnyi, they've bought some other few players from Albania and elsewhere. But Brazhko look to be looking into a new market. Also, Latin America. They've brought in a Costa Rica national team player on loan, Fernan Farion, not to be misrepresented to the former Ukrainian MP. But that looks like a good signing, to be honest.
That's a
right,
region.
Ray?
That's a region across the ocean.
And I think they've recently done like a swap with Metalist 925 as well for Tron Moritz, the centre-back, going there, and then Pasic going the other way to Brazhko. So Yeah, they look all right. Livy Berek been making a few sensible signings, a couple of players from Persha Liha, the kind of thing that you'd expect from them. I think one of the main forwards from Neva Ternopil has arrived there. Chorno Moritz have another transfer ban due to like weird not paying of fees and financing and all this kind of other stuff. It's like on and off transfer bans every other week for them. Ray Obolon signing Ustimenko and Ilian, but not much else going on there at the moment other than some kind of scandal. Am I right? What's that about?
Barely relevant to the transfer topics, right? Because nobody's gonna change a kit supplier mid-season, especially in these areas, especially in the north of Kyiv. However, there is a dispute about Yako, which is a German manufacturer, and truth be told, Yako is not that represented in Germany itself. They once were big with Bayern, Bayer Leverkusen, and Darmstadt, but now obviously not. And Yako, I don't even have an alternative from European market for that brand. It's not even Area or maybe Diadora, let's say it's somewhere there if you look at top 5 leagues, right? They supply some clubs from the league that is banned this season from the face of the earth, and it's not covered by respectable media. That brings questions. How did the Ukrainian media found out about it in the first place? And Bologna had to respond. They had to reach out to the manufacturer for explanations. Nothing is going to come to fruition as a consequence, I'm pretty sure, but you have to be in the headlines. So just as a fan perspective, the Yako kits have not been that impressive for Obolon in particular. Obolon this season is playing in the same template that FC Chernihiv of all clubs used 2 years ago, and they customized it pretty well. So all kudos to Chernihiv for being fan based community club, and Obolon being Obolon.
To finish off, Inhulets, Michael.
My boys, we are staying up. That's all I want to say about that. Yes, looks like they can play in the stadium again, which is just what they need. The fortress is returning. I'm telling you now, they're staying up. I'm betting my life on it. But that's exciting to see. And it's good for the club that they'll be playing at their stadium.
Not until the summer, by the way. They're actually playing the second half of this season, allegedly at Kryvbas's Hirnik Stadium. That's their reserve stadium. I'm not sure why it's not Alexandria when it's sort of in the same oblast. But whatever.
That's perfect.
Somehow,
well, let's see exactly what we need for next season.
Exactly. Yeah. What, in Persha? Yeah, exactly. And look, there's been different problems with Inhulets about certain players saying that rehab for injuries hasn't been covered or being paid for by the club. Certain players leaving, certain players not being paid, or some kind of scandal. I mean, we'll find out about it once we return to the UPL. Not something I want to really delve too deep in or in any detail for now, because Inhulets, as always, is just chaotic mini ecosystem of Petrova.
It's a wonderful little world where that exists. You mean they're not going to be playing in their old stadium?
No, I don't think it's allowed for the UPL standards, and their new one still needs like certain bits and pieces. But according to other Ukrainian media, it's saying that it will be ready to play in from, I guess, the start of next season. So wherever there will be for that, good luck to them.
Yeah,
but you have to be honest about this stadium. It promotes sports, it promotes fitness, it promotes lifestyle. I mean, instead of betting companies, it includes the quote from Povoroznyuk, and I don't remember what it is. Not "I want to bring Real Madrid here," but something like "Sports gave me everything" or whatever. It's reinforcing.
And that's actually the old stadium that Ray's talking about, not the new one, which looks like it's made out of Lego.
Well, it does explain all those packs we saw there back in 21 when we visited what was semi-finished then, wasn't it? Well, just no workers around. Anyway, Metalist raised some eyebrows this window when Gennady Synchuk went to Montreal for 4.8 million euros. very, very, very impressive fee again. However, we shouldn't be surprised when we look at the man behind the deal, Krasnikov, who drove Mudrik's fee so high a few years back as well. Very shrewd business operator is the delicate words I would use to describe him. Other words could be used elsewhere. Bologna, interestingly, shared the same owner as Montreal, and there's a lot of discussion that if Synchuk pushes on over in the MLS, a move to Serie A wouldn't be too far further down the line. Ray, you happy with this move? Another player coming to your side of the pond.
I was very happy with this move until, Adam, you mentioned Krasnikov and Mudryk in one sentence. That makes me wondering if Synchuk has all the quality dairy products provided to him.
Well, I do hope Canadian customs are taking this more seriously now, after President Trump has been talking to them quite severely over the last few weeks. Elsewhere, Zinchenko, a lot of discussion about him. Atletico, Dortmund, Inter were all interested in him. Nothing particularly materialised. Dortmund were probably the most interested, but only on loan. So he stays in North London for the time being.
Slightly
Sadly.
disappointing, yeah, because
sadly.
he's not playing. He's not playing. He's not even getting many minutes off the bench. When an 18-year-old Lewis Skelly is starting for Arsenal now, scoring against Man City, goading Haaland in great shithousery style, fair play to him. And then you've got Calafiori on the bench, who is the backup to that. It's like where
the club's moved on from him.
Where it's just a shame that Zinchenko is going to be sort of in this kind of limbo for the next 6 months. However, at least it's not a World Cup year. I think we can only say that, because it seems like he will move on in the summer and get that, hopefully, a move where he can play week in, week out.
It's a club World Cup year, Andrew. Club World Cup year.
Yeah.
And also, I have to defend Dyachuk here, because he would be going against history. And even though I already mentioned that it taught us nothing, he did the right choice, because if he went to Dortmund, he would be reversing Yarmolenko move, which is obviously family-wise. Each footballer's wife would want to go to London. That's why Yarmolenko did that. Going to Inter would be reversing Shevchenko's move. And we remember the motives for Shevchenko's move in 2006, right? So now his kids are in London. They're in Watford, Chelsea Academy, whatever. So Zinchenko did not go for that. He stayed with his family in London for at least 6 months. God bless him.
God bless him indeed. And Michael, as you mentioned it earlier, Plymouth's record signing got off to a cracking start, didn't he, last week?
Yeah, I saw the highlights, and he's become a fan favourite pretty much already. But it's a good move for him, getting out the Austrian league. It'll prove good. And like I said before, I don't want to keep going on. Hypothetically, if they go down, I still think it's good. I still think the League One, the English football pyramid is obviously very strong. If you're in League One, it's a very good league, and you're there. Do you know what I mean? If you have a good season in League One, you end up at the top of the Championship. It's as simple as that. So I think the future is bright for him. And like I say, getting off to a flying start with them, see that big tackle he did where he's cheering as well, that passion as well. That's how you win the English fans over straight away. So yeah, amazing to see. Should be with Kalyuzhnyi. I won't stop saying that, but unfortunately we'll deal with that.
And apparently Dyachuk was also on the shortlist of Plymouth before they signed Maxi. So that's an interesting one. There's always questions in Ukrainian media, they're hating on Wolves. They're saying that team's not good enough for Brazhko because he might play in the Championship. Oh no, is that going to be a bad thing for him realistically compared to the UPL? No. Maybe, might give him a bit more skin in the game, get that tenacity. In the Championship is in the top 10 European leagues. in my opinion. It's just never included in any of those lists because it's not a top flight. But it's better than, the likes of a Belgium or something like that.
The top 5 of the Championship is better than the bottom 5 of the Premier League. That's how it tends to work out, especially this season.
So, yeah, and of course, Talovyerov is playing for a relegation battling team. And apparently there potentially might be a clause that he can leave or have a release clause or something if they get relegated. But if he puts in a good showing these next 6 months, he might get that move to another Championship club or something similar. We're not saying he's some sort of elite level centre-back. And yeah, he was playing in Lask. Some people are saying Lask is much better to be playing there than going to the Champion. I would disagree with that. I think that this is a good opportunity for him to show himself. He's going to be playing in front of packed stands every week, playing good atmosphere. Like Mike said, he knows how to be a showman, just the way he looks, first of all. And some of the mistakes he makes that we'll probably be seeing at some point in the near future. And also, celebrating fouls and all that kind of thing and tackles. So it's great. It's great to see. So I'm hoping that he can progress. And that they can stay up. And I'm of a high, I don't know, I rate their manager quite highly. Things called Miron Muslic. He did really well at Cercle Bruges over recent seasons. Seems like a really good communicator, orator, good motivator for the players as well. They've played Liverpool in the FA Cup this weekend. It's like, what more can Talovyerov really want? And it's a shame that Kalyuzhnyi opted for. Apparently, the difference in the pay packet was about 5k per month between Plymouth and Metalist 925. Metalist 925 offered 5k more per month, but Kalyuzhnyi won't be getting that until the summer. Apparently, his wage right now at Alexandria is 5 times smaller than what he's going to be getting paid at Metalist 925 right now. So he's on like 5k or something like that. So it's like, I don't know what went through that. Maybe he just wants to stay in Ukraine. It's stability. He's been to far-flung places all around the world. He's played in Iceland. He's played in India. His car got blown up by a missile in Kiev over the Christmas period. But that's sort of not wanting him to move away or anything like that. So fair play to him. Let's just hope Metalist 925 with all of these kind of biggish players that have got skin in the national team game end up being promoted so that they can then actually still offer something and be called up. But that's what it is sometimes. Some players choose that, other players choose money, and that's where it is. Stability over sort of uncertainty. But fingers crossed for Talovyerov, it all happens and goes well for him. And just to finish, one of Maxi's great friends, Mihailo Mudryk. There is no update on his B sample just yet, but he's been included in Chelsea's Conference League squad for the second half of the season. What that means, we have no idea. Whether his B sample's been positive or maybe he's coming back, but who knows? Ben Jacobs, who's been posting quite a lot of exclusives about Ukrainian players of late and stuff like that, I think has got quite close connections there. He says that we might not even find out whether it's when the B sample comes out. I'm sure we will from Ukrainian sources at some point, but there is a chance that he might be able to, if it's negative, he might come back, but the chance of it being negative is very low. So in general, there is no update. The fact that he's included in that squad gives some kind of weird, distorted hope. Let's see, shrugging shoulders, I've got no idea.
What better point to finish than that? Guys, it's been great as always. And to everyone at home, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.